A journey beyond the stars. In the not-so-distant future, on a day that began like any other, a man named Jake Thompson found himself staring at the horizon from his tiny apartment window in New York City. He had always dreamed of adventure, of exploring the vastness of space, but for years he had been trapped in the monotony of his daily life. One day, while scrolling through an online travel site during his lunch break, he stumbled upon an advertisement for an interstellar cruise, a luxurious getaway aboard the Starship Elysium. With his heart racing, Jake made a spontaneous decision. He booked a ticket, hoping to escape the mundane routine and immerse himself in the wonders of the universe. The ship promised breathtaking views of distant galaxies and the chance to meet fascinating beings from across the cosmos. Little did he know, this impulsive choice would change his life forever. On the day of departure, Jake arrived at the bustling spaceport, where excitement crackled in the air. The sleek starship loomed ahead, glimmering under the bright lights. As he boarded, he was awestruck by the grandeur of the vessel. It was a palace in space, adorned with shimmering crystals and advanced technology that whispered promises of adventure. Once inside, Jake wandered through the ship, admiring its opulence. The corridors were lined with soft, glowing lights, and the walls were decorated with stunning murals depicting celestial wonders. However, as he explored, he couldn't shake the feeling of being the only man among the sea of elegance. Every passenger he encountered was a beautiful woman, each more stunning than the last, with eyes that sparkled like stars. With each step, Jake felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He finally reached his cabin, which was more akin to a luxurious suite than a simple room. A king-sized bed draped in silk sheets, a private balcony with a view of the stars, and a lavish bathroom equipped with a jacuzzi awaited him. He collapsed onto the bed, overwhelmed by the surreal experience. Feeling a pang of hunger, Jake decided to venture out in search of the dining hall. As he navigated the ship, he noticed the same phenomenon. Every woman he encountered was breathtakingly beautiful, dressed in elegant gowns that flowed like liquid silver. Their laughter echoed through the hallways, creating a melody that danced in the air. It felt like stepping into a dream where he was the only man. When he finally arrived at the dining hall, Jake was taken aback by its grandeur. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and tables were adorned with fine china and exquisite silverware. As he sat down, he glanced around at the other passengers, marveling at the captivating women who surrounded him. Just as he began to relax, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Jake looked up to see a striking woman with luminous blue skin and glowing violet eyes. Her presence was magnetic. No, go ahead," he stammered, still trying to process the surrealism of the moment. "I'm Lyra," she introduced herself, sitting down with an elegance that left Jake speechless. "Jake," he managed to reply, feeling the warmth of her gaze. Before he could say more, another woman joined them, her fiery red hair cascading over her shoulders like a flame. "I'm Kayla," she said, her voice confident and inviting. "Interesting to see a man on this ship." Jake chuckled nervously. "Yeah, I think there's been a mix-up. I was supposed to be on a budget cruise." Lyra and Kayla exchanged curious glances, their expressions shifting from surprise to intrigue. "A mix-up, you say?" Lyra leaned in closer, her eyes piercing through him. "This ship is exclusively for the Galactic Emperor's concubines." Jake's heart sank. "Concubines," he echoed, disbelief creeping into his voice. "Yes," Lyra confirmed softly. "And the fact that you're here is highly unusual." Jake's mind raced, trying to process the implications of this revelation. "Look, I don't mean any harm. I just boarded the wrong ship by mistake." Kayla studied him carefully, her fiery eyes narrowing. "You realize this isn't a vacation spot, right?" Laura's gaze softened as she sensed his genuine confusion. "He's telling the truth," she assured Kayla. He really didn't know. Feeling a sense of relief wash over him, Jake sighed. "I promise I won't cause any trouble." Kayla's skepticism remained, but she seemed slightly less hostile. We'll discuss your situation with the others. Stay here for now." As they walked away, Jake felt like a fish out of water. What had he gotten himself into? He finished his meal in silence, the luxurious surroundings suddenly feeling intimidating. Later that night, he returned to his cabin, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on his mind. He had only been on the ship for a few hours, and already it felt like he was living in a bizarre dream. Lying in the plush bed, he gazed out at the stars, wondering what lay ahead. The next morning, Jake woke to find a message blinking on the screen in his cabin. Meeting in the lounge at 10 a.m., his heart raced with anxiety. What if they decided to throw him out into the void of space? With a mix of dread and curiosity, he made his way to the lounge, where the women had gathered. Their expressions were a mix of intrigue and caution. Lyra and Kayla were there, along with several others he hadn't met yet. The sight of so many beautiful women in their elegant gowns made his head spin. "Jake," Lyra began, her tone serious, "we've discussed your situation. While it's clear you boarded by mistake, we need to ensure you won't cause any trouble." "I understand," Jake replied earnestly. "I just want to enjoy my vacation, wherever it takes me." A woman with silver skin stepped forward, her calm demeanor contrasting with the others. "I'm Alana," she said. "We've decided to let you stay temporarily, provided you respect our space and follow the rules." "I promise I won't be any trouble," Jake assured them, feeling the tension ease slightly. Kayla leaned forward, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "What will you do when we reach our next stop?" Jake frowned, trying to think through the implications. "I'll just disembark and catch another ship." Lyra and Kayla exchanged glances, their expressions growing somber. "Jake," Lyra began gently, "this ship is on autopilot. It won't stop until it reaches the Galactic Emperor's palace in 10 years. Jake's stomach dropped. 10 years? He whispered in disbelief. "Yes," Alana confirmed. "It's programmed to deliver us to the Emperor without any detours." As the days passed, Jake made an effort to get to know the women better. Each one was unique, not just in appearance but in personality. Lyra, with her telepathic powers, often caught him off guard with her insights. Kayla's fiery spirit matched her ability to control flames, while Alana's calming presence provided a soothing balm in this strange new world. Mira, another captivating woman, possessed the ability to control plants, turning their surroundings into a fragrant paradise. Jake's charm and humor helped break down their initial skepticism, and he found himself drawn into their world, learning about their lives and dreams. The more he got to know them, the more incredible they seemed. They were not just beautiful, they were intelligent, talented, and full of depth. One evening, as they gathered for dinner, the atmosphere felt lighter and more relaxed. Lyra smiled at him from across the table. "So, Jake, how are you finding life on the Elysium?" He grinned, trying to conceal his growing affection for them. "It's definitely not what I expected, but I can't complain." Kayla laughed, her eyes twinkling. "You've adapted surprisingly well for someone who thought they were on a budget cruise." Jake shrugged, aware that sometimes the best adventures were the ones he didn't plan. As the meal progressed, he felt a sense of belonging that he hadn't experienced in a long time. These women, once strangers, were becoming friends, and perhaps something more. The thought of leaving them behind at the end of this journey filled him with a strange sense of dread. After dinner, Jake returned to his cabin, his mind racing with thoughts of the future. He knew he needed to be careful and tread lightly, but a part of him was already deeply entwined with these extraordinary women. The beauty of their bodies, the allure of their personalities, all made his head spin with possibilities. Lying in bed, he stared at the stars outside his window, wondering what lay ahead. He had no idea that this journey would not only transform his life, but also reshape the very fabric of his understanding of connection, love, and the strength of humanity among the stars. The unexpected bond. As the days turned into weeks aboard the Elysium, Jake found himself adapting to the extraordinary lifestyle among the 40 beautiful alien women. Each day was a new adventure, filled with laughter, learning, and the occasional challenge. The initial shock of being the only man in a ship filled with mesmerizing beauty had dulled, replaced by a warm sense of camaraderie that blossomed into deep connections. Jake often spent his mornings in the ship's expansive garden, a lush oasis created by Mira, the plant controller. Vines of vibrant colors intertwined with flowers that shimmered like jewels, filling the air with a sweet, heady fragrance. It was here that he could escape the pressures of his unusual situation and find solace in the company of these remarkable women. Jake admired Mira's gentle nature and her ability to make the garden flourish with life, often marveling at how she coaxed the plants into blooming in ways he had never imagined. One sunny morning, as he strolled through the garden, he spotted Mira tending to a particularly radiant flower. "Hey, Mira," he called out, approaching her. "You make this place feel like paradise." Mira looked up, her green eyes sparkling with joy. "Thank you, Jake. I love nurturing these plants. They remind me of home." "Home?" Jake asked, intrigued. "What's it like?" Mira paused, a wistful smile spreading across her face. "It's a planet covered in forests and rivers, filled with vibrant life. My people believe in harmony with nature, and we cultivate our surroundings with care." Jake found himself captivated by her stories, the way she painted vivid images of her homeworld. "I'd love to see it someday," he admitted, wishing he could experience the beauty she described. "You will," Mira replied, her voice filled with conviction. "One day, when this journey is over, we'll find a way back." As their conversations deepened, Jake began to feel a sense of hope. He had initially viewed this predicament as a mere accident, a strange twist of fate, but now it felt like an opportunity to learn and grow alongside these extraordinary women. Each one had unique talents and stories that enriched his understanding of the universe. In the evenings, Jake often joined the others for dinner, where they would share their experiences and dreams. Kayla, with her fiery spirit, had become a close friend. One night, as they gathered around a lavish table adorned with exotic dishes, she leaned in with a playful grin. "Jake, you must teach us about Earth cuisine. What do you like to eat?" Jake chuckled, thinking back to the comfort food he had grown up with: pizzas, burgers, and pastas. "Well, we have something called pizza. It's a flatbread with cheese and toppings." Kayla's eyes widened with excitement. "Cheese? What is that?" "It's a dairy product," Jake explained. "Made from milk. It's creamy and delicious." The other women listened intently, leaning closer as Jake described the culinary wonders of Earth. By the time he finished, they were all clamoring to try their hand at making pizza. It became a delightful tradition, and soon they were experimenting in the ship's state-of-the-art kitchen, combining Earth ingredients with exotic flavors from their home planets. One evening, as they tossed dough and shared laughter, Jake felt a sense of belonging he had never known. The walls that once felt isolating now pulsed with warmth and connection. As they shared stories and cooked together, he realized he was building friendships that transcended their initial circumstances. Despite the growing bonds, Jake still grappled with the reality of his situation. The ship was on a trajectory that would not change for 10 years, and the thought of being unable to return to Earth weighed heavily on his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was living in a dream, and at some point he would have to wake up. One night, after a particularly lively dinner, he found himself alone on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The endless expanse of the universe seemed to mirror his own thoughts, vast, uncertain, and full of possibilities. Suddenly, he felt a presence beside him. It was Lyra, her violet eyes shimmering in the starlight. "Jake," she said softly, "I've been wanting to talk to you." Jake turned to her, intrigued. "What's on your mind?" "I can sense your emotions," she explained, her voice gentle. "You're struggling with the idea of being here, aren't you?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, I can't help but feel trapped. It's an amazing experience, but it's also overwhelming. I miss Earth, my friends, my life." Lyra nodded, her expression understanding. "I get it. But this journey can be transformative. You have the chance to discover who you are beyond the confines of your previous life. Her words resonated with him, igniting a flicker of hope. Maybe you're right. I have the opportunity to learn and grow with all of you. Yes, she smiled, and you're already doing that. You've brought us together in ways we didn't expect. Jake felt a warmth in his chest at her compliment. I appreciate that, Lyra. It means a lot coming from you. Their conversation flowed easily as they shared their dreams and fears under the shimmering stars. The connection between them deepened, a bond forged in shared vulnerability and understanding. As the night wore on, Jake felt a sense of peace wash over him. Days turned into months, and Jake found himself embracing the rhythm of life aboard the Elysium. He learned about the different cultures of the women he lived with, each contributing their own unique flair to their shared existence. They would gather to celebrate the festivals of their homeworlds, sharing music, dance, and stories. Jake became an honorary member of their family, his laughter echoing through the ship as they built memories together. However, as the journey progressed, Jake couldn't ignore the growing tension beneath the surface. Despite their camaraderie, there were moments when the reality of their situation loomed like a shadow. The women had their own complexities and challenges, and Jake realized that their lives were intertwined with the fate of the Galactic Emperor, who awaited their arrival. One evening during a gathering in the lounge, the atmosphere shifted as the women began discussing their impending arrival at the Emperor's palace. Kayla's expression turned serious as she spoke. Once we arrive, things will change. We'll be presented to him, and our futures will be decided. Jake felt a pang of unease. What do you mean? Are you not free to choose your paths? Ilana, the wise woman with silver skin, replied, The Emperor has certain expectations for us. Many of us have been chosen for our beauty and abilities. It's a complex situation. Jake listened intently, his heart heavy with concern for his friends. But you're all so much more than that. You deserve to be seen for who you are, not just as possessions. The room fell silent as they considered his words. Finally, Mira spoke up, her voice soft but firm. We have to navigate this carefully, Jake. It's not just about us, it's about survival. We have to play the game to stay safe. As their discussion continued, Jake realized that the adventure he had initially thought would be filled with joy and laughter also carried the weight of uncertainty and fear. The women had formed a tight-knit community, but they were still at the mercy of a powerful ruler who held their fates in his hands. That night, as Jake lay in his cabin, he reflected on the conversations he had shared. He was grateful for the friendships he had forged, but he felt a growing determination to help his companions find their own paths beyond the Emperor's grasp. He knew that they were capable of so much more than being mere concubines, and he vowed to support them in any way he could. With renewed resolve, Jake began to devise a plan. If they were to face the Emperor together, they would need to harness their strengths and work as a team. He spent time speaking with each woman, gathering their thoughts and ideas, and creating a strategy that would empower them to take control of their destinies. Little did he know that this plan would lead them down a path of unexpected adventure, testing the limits of their courage and ingenuity as they prepared to confront the challenges that lay ahead. The bond they had formed would be crucial in the face of adversity, and Jake felt a sense of purpose building within him. The journey was far from over, and together they would rise to the occasion. The Emperor's invitation. As the months aboard the Elysium continued to slip away, Jake and the women had grown even closer, forming a bond that felt almost familial. The ship, once a mere vessel transporting them through the cosmos, had transformed into a home filled with laughter, warmth, and shared dreams. However, the looming presence of the Galactic Emperor hung over them like a storm cloud, casting a shadow of uncertainty on their newfound happiness. One fateful morning, as the ship glided through a nebula filled with swirling colors and shimmering stardust, a message flashed on the screen in the lounge. The women gathered around, their expressions a mix of excitement and apprehension. Jake stood with them, his heart pounding as he read the words, "Invitation to the Galactic Emperor's Palace." All concubines are to prepare for arrival in 3 days. The news sent ripples of anxiety through the group. Kayla's fiery spirit flickered with anger. Prepare for what exactly? This isn't a party, it's our lives on the line. Laura placed a calming hand on Kayla's shoulder. We need to stay composed. This could be an opportunity to assert ourselves. Jake felt a surge of determination. You're right, Lyra. We have to approach this strategically. Let's discuss our options and figure out how to present ourselves. As the group convened in the lounge, Jake took charge, outlining his vision. We have to showcase our strengths and talents. Each of you has unique abilities that can make a powerful impression. Mira nodded thoughtfully. We should emphasize our skills and intelligence. The Emperor may underestimate us, thinking we're just beautiful faces. Elana added, and we must be mindful of our demeanor. Confidence and grace will speak volumes about our worth. Over the next few days, the atmosphere on the ship shifted from one of fear to a focused energy. The women immersed themselves in preparations, each contributing their unique talents to create a united front. Jake found himself working alongside them, learning more about their cultures, histories, and aspirations. Kayla took the lead in preparing for their introduction. We should create an impressive display of our abilities. I'll showcase my fire manipulation. It'll leave a lasting impression, she suggested, her eyes burning with determination. Mira volunteered to create an array of vibrant plants to adorn their presentation area. I can weave the plants into beautiful arrangements that reflect the beauty of our worlds, she said, excitement sparkling in her voice. Elana, with her calm wisdom, proposed a strategy for their arrival. We should present ourselves as equals, not as possessions. We are here to negotiate our futures, not to be auctioned off. As the 3 days sped by, Jake felt a growing sense of anticipation and anxiety. He had never faced a ruler before, let alone an emperor of the galaxy. He was acutely aware that their lives hung in the balance, and he hoped that their preparations would resonate with the emperor. Finally, the day arrived. The ship entered the orbit of the emperor's palace, a magnificent structure that dwarfed everything around it. It glimmered with golden accents and was adorned with sprawling gardens and cascading fountains. Jake couldn't help but feel both awe and trepidation. As they docked, the women donned their most exquisite attire, each outfit a reflection of their home worlds. Kayla wore a gown that shimmered like fire, her red hair cascading in waves. Laura chose a flowing dress in hues of deep blue, reminiscent of the night sky. Mira's outfit was adorned with floral patterns, showcasing her connection to nature, while Elana wore a gown that sparkled with silver, reflecting her ethereal beauty. Jake had never seen them look more stunning. He felt an overwhelming sense of pride for the women who had become his friends and allies. As they prepared to disembark, he pulled them aside for a moment of solidarity. Remember, you are more than what they expect. You're brilliant, talented, and strong. Whatever happens, we face it together. They nodded, exchanging determined glances, and with that, they stepped off the ship. The palace was a grand sight to behold, with tall pillars and intricately designed architecture. They walked through vast halls, flanked by guards clad in shimmering armor. Each step echoed in the silence, heightening the tension in the air. Finally, they reached the throne room, an expansive space that radiated power. At the far end sat the Galactic Emperor, a man of imposing stature with a presence that demanded attention. His eyes, cold and calculating, surveyed the group as they entered. "Welcome, concubines of the Elysium," he boomed, his voice resonating through the chamber. "You stand before me, a rare collection of beauty and talent." Jake felt a shiver run down his spine as he caught the dismissive glances the Emperor cast at the women. He stepped forward, unable to contain himself. "We are not just here to be seen. We wish to negotiate our futures." The Emperor raised an eyebrow, surprised by the boldness of the lone human. "And what makes you think you have any power in this situation?" Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Because these women are more than just concubines. They are warriors, diplomats, and scholars. They can contribute to your empire in ways you can't imagine. The emperor's expression shifted, curiosity peaked. Interesting, you speak with conviction, but what proof do you have of their worth? Kayla stepped forward, her confidence radiating. I can summon fire that can warm an entire city or scorch an enemy's battalion. Give me the chance to demonstrate. The emperor leaned back in his throne, intrigued. Very well, show me. Kayla nodded, stepping to the center of the room. With a swift motion, she conjured flames that danced and twirled, creating intricate patterns in the air. The fire illuminated the chamber, casting flickering shadows that captivated everyone present. The emperor's lips curled into a sly smile. Impressive, but show me what else you can do. Each of you must prove your worth. One by one, the women showcased their talents. Mira summoned flowers that blossomed at her feet, filling the room with vibrant colors and sweet fragrances. Ilana's calm demeanor radiated wisdom as she spoke eloquently about her people's knowledge of diplomacy and peace. Lyra demonstrated her telepathy, connecting with the minds of the gods and showcasing the depth of her abilities. As they presented their skills, Jake felt a swell of pride. They were not just proving themselves to the Emperor, they were reclaiming their identities and asserting their worth. The Emperor watched intently, clearly impressed but also calculating. You are all fascinating beings. But remember, this is not just a display of talent, it's a matter of loyalty. You will need to prove your allegiance to me. Jake felt a chill at the Emperor's words. The implications were clear. Loyalty came with a price. He exchanged worried glances with the women, all of them sharing the same unspoken concern. What does that mean for us? Mira asked, her voice steady despite the tension. The Emperor leaned forward, his eyes glinting with ambition. You will be given roles within my court. Those who excel will have the opportunity to rise in status, but those who fail will find themselves less fortunate. Jake's heart raced. They were standing on a precipice, and he felt the weight of their future resting on his shoulders. We're not interested in servitude, he said, his voice firm. We want the freedom to choose our paths. The Emperor chuckled darkly, the sound echoing through the grand hall. Freedom is a luxury in my empire, but you may have a chance to earn it. As the meeting concluded, Jake and the women were led away, their minds swirling with uncertainty. They had proven their worth, but the Emperor's words lingered like a dark cloud. What would it mean to serve him? What sacrifices would they have to make? Back on the ship, Jake gathered the women in the lounge. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken fears, and he could see the worry etched on their faces. We need to regroup and figure out our next steps, he urged, hoping to foster a sense of unity amidst the anxiety. Kayla clenched her fists, her fiery spirit unyielding. I refuse to be a pawn in his game. We deserve better. I agree, Mira chimed in, her voice strong. We have to find a way to turn this situation to our advantage. Ilana nodded, her wisdom guiding them. We must remain cautious. The Emperor is powerful, but he is not invincible. We need to leverage our strengths and find allies within the palace. As they brainstormed ideas and strategies, Jake felt a surge of hope. They were a force to be reckoned with, and together, they could challenge the status quo. The bond they had forged over the months would be their greatest strength in the face of adversity. Little did they know that their journey was only beginning. The challenges ahead would test their resolve, but with unity and determination, they would face the Galactic Emperor and carve out their destinies. The universe was vast, and it was time for them to reclaim their power among the stars. The dance of intrigue. With their futures hanging in the balance, Jake and the women of the Elysium spent the next few days in a flurry of activity. The Emperor's invitation to his palace had opened a door to a world filled with possibilities, but also with dangers. They needed a strategy not just to survive, but to thrive in this new environment. As they sat together in the lounge, the tension from their first meeting with the Emperor lingered in the air. We need to understand the dynamics of the palace, Jake suggested, pacing back and forth. It's not just about showcasing our abilities. We need allies who can support us. Lyra, her violet eyes sparkling with curiosity, nodded. I sense that there are factions within the palace. Not everyone supports the Emperor blindly. Some might be sympathetic to our cause. Kayla, her fiery spirit reigniting, chimed in. Then we need to find those people. If we can garner support, we can turn this situation around. Mira, always the voice of reason, added, but we must tread carefully. Gaining trust takes time, and we don't want to attract unnecessary attention. Ilana's calm demeanor radiated wisdom. Let's start by observing the interactions around us. We can pick up on the nuances of the court and identify potential allies. With a plan forming, the women dispersed to explore the palace while Jake remained in the lounge, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that navigating the political landscape would be tricky, but he felt a sense of purpose. They were not just here to exist. They were here to reclaim their destinies. The next morning, the women donned elegant gowns that reflected their unique identities, preparing for their first official appearance in the Emperor's court. As they stepped into the grand ballroom, Jake marveled at the opulence surrounding them. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting shimmering lights over the polished marble floors. The walls were adorned with artwork depicting historical conquests and victories, a constant reminder of the Emperor's power. As the evening unfolded, Jake observed the guests mingling, noting the subtle dynamics at play. Courtiers and dignitaries engaged in conversations, their laughter echoing off the walls. But beneath the surface, he sensed a current of unease. Many of the attendees wore forced smiles, their eyes flickering with wariness. "Stay alert," Jake whispered to the women as they moved through the crowd. "We need to keep our ears open and watch for opportunities." Kayla glanced around, her fiery nature ready for action. "If anyone gives us trouble, I won't hesitate to show them what I can do." Jake smiled at her enthusiasm, but he knew they had to be strategic. "Let's focus on gathering information for now. We'll make our move when the time is right." As they mingled, Jake noticed a tall, dignified woman with silver hair and an air of authority. She stood apart from the crowd, observing the proceedings with keen eyes. Intrigued, Jake motioned for the others to join him. "Who do you think she is?" he asked quietly. Lyra narrowed her eyes, concentrating. "I can sense strength in her. She seems to be respected, but also isolated. Perhaps she's a former ally of the Emperor who has fallen out of favor." With a shared look of determination, they approached the woman. As they drew closer, Jake introduced himself. "Greetings, I'm Jake, and these are my friends. We are new to the court and wish to learn from those more experienced." The woman turned to them, her piercing gaze evaluating each of them. "I am Lady Seraphine," she replied, her voice smooth and commanding. "What brings you to this gathering?" Jake felt a flutter of nerves but pressed on. "We've been invited as potential concubines, but we seek to understand the court and its workings. We want to ensure that we can contribute meaningfully." A flicker of amusement crossed Lady Seraphine's face. "Contribute. You are aware that the Emperor sees concubines as trophies, not allies." Kayla stepped forward, her fiery spirit shining through. "We are more than mere trophies. We have talents that can benefit the Empire." Seraphine raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Bold, I like that. But you must tread carefully. The Emperor does not take kindly to those who challenge his authority." Jake sensed an opportunity. "We understand the risks, but we believe in our potential. We want to forge our own paths instead of being pawns in someone else's game." Lady Seraphine studied them for a moment, her expression shifting to one of contemplation. "If you wish to gain influence, I can guide you. But be warned, the court is filled with intrigue and betrayal. You must be prepared to navigate it with grace." The group exchanged excited glances, hope igniting within them. "Thank you, Lady Seraphine," Jake said, gratitude lacing his voice. "We're eager to learn from you." As the evening continued, Lady Seraphine began to introduce them to various court members, weaving them into the fabric of the palace's social dynamics. They met influential nobles, each with their agendas, and gradually began to understand the intricate web of alliances and rivalries that defined the court. Throughout the night, Jake kept a close watch on the emperor. He could feel the tension in the air whenever the emperor entered a room. The courtiers would shift, their laughter growing strained, and the atmosphere would grow thick with unspoken fear. Jake understood that while they needed to navigate the emperor's whims, they also had to remain vigilant against any potential threats. Days turned into weeks, and Jake and the women found themselves increasingly enmeshed in the political landscape of the palace. Lady Seraphine proved to be an invaluable ally, providing them with insights into the emperor's preferences and the intricacies of court etiquette. She helped them hone their abilities to read the room, to understand unspoken cues, and to navigate the delicate dance of politics. During this time, they held secret meetings, brainstorming strategies and discussing their vision for a future beyond the emperor's control. They practiced their presentations, each woman showcasing her abilities to gain the emperor's favor, while emphasizing their worth beyond mere concubinage. One evening, after a particularly intense strategy session, Jake found himself alone in the garden, seeking solace among the vibrant flora that reminded him of Mira's beautiful creations aboard the Elysium. As he leaned against a tree, he took a deep breath, absorbing the fragrant air. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw Lady Seraphine approaching. "You've been working tirelessly," she observed, her silver hair glistening in the moonlight. "But do not forget to take care of yourself amidst the chaos." Jake smiled, appreciating her concern. "Thank you, Lady Seraphine. It's just, there's so much at stake, and I feel responsible for my friends." She stepped closer, her expression softening. "You care for them deeply. That's a strength. But remember, vulnerability can also be a weapon. Use it wisely." "Do you believe we can truly change our circumstances?" he asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Lady Seraphine regarded him thoughtfully. "Change is always possible, but it requires patience, cunning, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected. Do not underestimate your ability to inspire those around you." Jake felt a spark of hope igniting within him. "We will find a way together. We refuse to be defined by the emperor's expectations." As the days passed, their preparations continued. They focused not only on honing their skills, but also on building connections within the palace. They engaged with other court members, showcasing their talents and intellect, slowly earning respect and admiration. However, as they gained favor, they also attracted the attention of those who viewed them as a threat. Whispers began to circulate in the shadows, and Jake could feel the growing animosity from some of the emperor's most loyal supporters. One evening, as they attended a grand ball in the emperor's honor, the atmosphere was electric. Dignitaries and nobles mingled, their laughter echoing against the marble walls. Yet, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked beneath the surface. Suddenly, a commotion erupted on the dance floor. A group of courtiers, led by a particularly arrogant noble named Lord Thorn, began to challenge Jake and the women publicly. "What are you doing here, outsiders? Do you really think you belong in our court?" Jake felt his heart race, but he refused to back down. "We're here to represent our skills and show that we are worthy of respect." Lord Thorn sneered, stepping closer. "Worthy? You are merely distractions for the emperor. You'll never be more than that." The tension in the air thickened, and the other guests began to turn their attention to the confrontation. Kayla, her fiery nature ignited, stepped forward. "You know nothing of our worth. We are not just here to please the emperor. We are here to prove our value." "Prove it then," Lord Thorn taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. "Show us what you're made of." Jake's mind raced. This was a pivotal moment. They could either rise to the challenge or be humiliated. He exchanged a glance with the women, who all nodded in silent agreement. "Very well," Jake said, stepping into the fray. "We accept your challenge." The dance of intrigue had begun, and they were ready to show the court just how powerful they could be. They would not be mere players in the emperor's game. They would rewrite the rules and claim their destinies. The fight for their future had only just begun, and with every challenge, they grew stronger, determined to forge a path of their own in a galaxy that had underestimated them for far too long. The challenge accepted. The atmosphere in the grand ballroom crackled with tension as Jake and the women stood united against Lord Thorn and his entourage of snickering courtiers. The ball, which had started as a celebration of the Emperor's reign, had quickly morphed into a battlefield where pride and power clashed. Jake could sense the eyes of the court upon them, some filled with curiosity, others with amusement. What would it be then? Lord Thorn taunted, his voice booming through the hall. Are you going to entertain us with a display of your so-called talents, or will you simply slink back into the shadows where you belong? Jake's heart raced, but he felt a surge of adrenaline. We'll show you exactly what we can do, he declared, glancing at the women who had become his allies and friends. They were not just beautiful faces in a palace, they were powerful beings with unique abilities. Kayla stepped forward, her fiery hair shimmering under the chandeliers. Let me demonstrate what fire can do. It's not just for show, it can be a weapon and a tool, you'll see. The crowd parted, and a hush fell over the ballroom as Kayla prepared herself. Jake felt a rush of pride as she conjured flames that danced and swirled around her. With a flick of her wrist, she formed fireballs that hovered in the air, glowing brightly. The heat radiated toward the guests, causing a few to gasp in awe. Impressive, Lord Thorn sneered, though Jake could see the flicker of unease in his eyes. But we need more than theatrics. What else do you have? Mira stepped forward, her voice calm yet assertive. I can summon the beauty of nature itself. With that, she raised her hands, and the vibrant flowers from the garden outside began to bloom in a mesmerizing display, filling the air with their fragrant aroma. Vines twisted and intertwined, creating an enchanting archway around the stage. Jake watched as the audience, captivated by the transformation, began to murmur in approval. Mira's talent showcased the harmony between nature and life, a stark contrast to the harshness of the court. All right, flowers and fire, Lord Thorn said, his bravado wavering slightly. But can you offer something of substance? Something that proves your worth beyond mere entertainment? Ilana, ever the voice of wisdom, stepped forward with grace. We bring knowledge and understanding. We are not here just to perform, we are here to contribute to the Empire. Allow me to speak on diplomacy. The crowd quieted as Ilana spoke, her voice steady and clear. In our travels, we have learned that peace can be more powerful than war. We can help foster alliances between factions and ensure stability within the Empire. She detailed how her people valued negotiation over conflict, her words resonating with the attendees who were growing weary of the endless power struggles. Lord Thorn's expression shifted, annoyance creeping back in as he waved his hand dismissively. Diplomacy is all well and good, but I want to see real strength. I challenge you to a physical contest. Prove that you can defend yourselves, that you are more than mere words. Jake felt a jolt of apprehension. Physical contests often led to humiliation, especially against a skilled opponent like Lord Thorn. And what do you propose? Jake asked, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his chest. I propose a duel, Thorn declared, his eyes gleaming with arrogance. One of you against me. If you win, you earn respect in this court. But if you lose, well, let's just say the consequences will be dire. The murmurs in the crowd shifted, excitement stirring as they anticipated the challenge. Jake exchanged glances with the women, sensing their apprehension. I'll do it, Kayla said, her eyes aflame with determination. I won't back down from this coward. Are you sure? Jake asked, concern etched on his face. This is risky, Kayla. We don't know the extent of his abilities. Kayla nodded, her expression resolute. I can handle him. I've faced tougher challenges before. As they prepared for the duel, Jake could feel the weight of the court's expectations bearing down on them. He stepped closer to Kayla, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Just remember to stay focused. Don't let him get into your head. The crowd gathered around, forming a circle to watch the impending showdown. Lord Thorn stood confidently in the center, arms crossed and a smirk plastered on his face. "Are you ready to lose, Firebrand?" Kayla took a deep breath, centering herself. "I won't lose," she shot back, her voice fierce. The duel commenced, and the tension in the air was palpable. Kayla summoned flames, creating barriers and fireballs that she hurled toward Thorn. He dodged expertly, using his agility to evade the scorching heat. The crowd watched in awe, some gasping at the sheer display of power. As the duel intensified, Jake could see Kayla pushing herself, her movements fluid and fierce. She was not just fighting Thorn, she was fighting for all of them. With each fiery blast, she ignited the crowd's excitement, drawing them into the spectacle. However, Lord Thorn was not without his tricks. He retaliated with swift strikes, manipulating the energy around him to create blasts of force that sent ripples through the air. Kayla stumbled briefly, the impact of his power rattling her. "Is this all you have?" Thorn taunted, his arrogance shining through. "You think you can stand against me? You're just a pretty face with a trick." The crowd shifted, and for a moment, Jake felt a pang of fear. Would they start to believe Thorn's words? Would the Emperor's court judge them solely by this battle? But Kayla wasn't done. Gritting her teeth, she focused, gathering her energy. Flames flickered around her, rising higher and brighter, reflecting her inner strength. With a fierce battle cry, she unleashed a torrent of fire toward Thorn, who was momentarily caught off guard. The flames spiraled around him, forcing him to shield his face as the heat intensified. The crowd erupted in cheers, the tide of support shifting in Kayla's favor. With newfound determination, Kayla charged forward, her fiery aura illuminating the darkened hall. She moved with a fluid grace, using her agility to outmaneuver Thorn. As she danced around him, she became a whirlwind of flames, disorienting her opponent. Thorn, now visibly frustrated, attempted to counter with a forceful blast, but Kayla was quicker. She ducked and rolled, evading the attack, and used the momentum to launch herself at him. In one swift motion, she knocked him to the ground, the flames dancing around her in victory. The crowd gasped, a mix of disbelief and admiration sweeping through them. Kayla stood over Thorn, her chest heaving with exertion. "You underestimated me," she declared, her voice unwavering. "We are more than you think. We will not be silenced or belittled." Cheers erupted from the audience, the energy in the room electric. Jake felt a wave of pride wash over him, knowing that they had proven themselves in front of the Emperor's court. They were not mere concubines, they were warriors, and they would not be defined by anyone's expectations. As Thorn got to his feet, his face flushed with anger, Jake stepped forward. "This isn't over, Thorn. You may have power, but you don't have what we have. Unity and strength through our friendship. You'll find that underestimating us will be your downfall." Thorn sneered, regaining his composure. "You may have won this battle, but the war is far from over." With that, he stormed away, his arrogance wounded but still intact. The crowd, now filled with admiration for Kayla and her friends, began to chant their names, their voices echoing through the palace halls. Jake and the women exchanged triumphant glances, their hearts racing with adrenaline and pride. They had faced a formidable opponent and emerged victorious, solidifying their place in the court. As they left the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted from one of hostility to support. Lady Seraphine approached them, her expression a mixture of admiration and respect. "You've shown great courage tonight. The court will remember this." Mira beamed, her joy infectious. "We did it together. We proved that we are more than what the Emperor thinks." Ilana, ever the strategist, added, "This victory gives us a platform to speak. We must use it wisely." Jake felt a sense of hope blossom within him. They were not just surviving, they were thriving. The path ahead was still fraught with uncertainty, but together, they had the power to forge their destinies in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. As they walked through the corridors of the palace, Jake couldn't help but feel that their journey had only just begun. The challenges ahead would be significant, but with each victory, they were reshaping their narrative and challenging the very fabric of the Emperor's expectations. The stars were vast, and their story was far from over. It was only just beginning.